Welcome to another episode of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, joining me live from Taiwan, Sean Newton. Joining me live from the UK, Mr. One and Only Mr. Boxing Addict. How you doing, fellas?
Good. Yeah, really good.
For those that are new to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the Pound for Pound Boxing Report is a live YouTube show / podcast / blog that discusses all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. If you want to find out more information about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, there are two main places you can go. You can go to the blog page, and the link for that is p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Let me repeat that, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. And on the Pound for Pound Boxing Report blog page, you can find links to previous episodes of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, as well as blog posts, articles, videos done by yours truly. You can also check out the podcast page. That's p4pboxingreport.podomatic.com. Let me repeat that, p4pboxingreport.podomatic.com. And on the podcast page, you can find all previous episodes of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report podcast. And I make a distinction between the podcast and the YouTube show because with the podcast, I add a little bit of music there. On the blog page as well as the podcast page, you can also find links to where to find anything Pound for Pound Boxing Report all over social media, pages on Facebook, on Google+, on Tumblr, the Twitter account, and the Twitter handle is at P4P Boxing Report. The Podomatic page, the podcast page, of course, the link to the YouTube channel. We got a board on Pinterest, the RSS feed, subscribe to that if you want to check out the Pound for Pound Boxing Report podcast. We're also on Stitcher Radio. Be a friend, be a pal, be a buddy. Check us out on Stitcher Radio. Just do a search of P4P Boxing Report and check out the show there and leave some comments. Let us know if you like the show, and if you don't like the show, let us know what we can do to make the show better. And lastly, we've got a link on the podcast page as well as the podcast page as well as the blog where you can donate your account. Again, be a friend, be a pal, be a buddy. Donate your Twitter account. The link to donate your account is donateyouraccount.com/P4P Boxing Report. And what happens is any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page, your Twitter account will automatically retweet any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page. With those issues out the way, let's get the show started tonight, fellas, by doing a recap of what went down this past weekend in boxing. Headlined, of course, by a pretty interesting card, interesting main event to a triple header that went down in Brooklyn on HBO this past Saturday night. David Lemieux coming off on the comeback trail following his knockout loss to Rubio, fought Gabriel Rosado. Very exciting fight, intriguing fight, kind of back and forth all the way. And I go to you on this one, Sean. Even though Rosado landed his share of punches, even hurt Lemieux a couple of times, I got the sense that Lemieux had a semblance of control throughout. He got off to a really hot start early, landed with both hands to the head and the body. I think ultimately it was the combination punches to the head and the body, as well as just the power of Lemieux that really showed and proved at the end of the day. Bad swelling over the eye of Rosado. I wanted to say it was his left eye, I believe it was. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ultimately, kind of forced that, as well as accumulation of punishment, forced stoppage of the fight. Comments on the fight, Sean, and your thoughts on Lemieux, as far as I'm concerned, the improvement of David Lemieux.
I picked Rosado to win because I figured he was going to be the more skilled fighter, had the better resume as far as competition that he fought. I mean, mind you, he lost some guys, but a few of those fights were really competitive, and some cuts and things just didn't go his way. So I thought he would be able to show his skill against Lemieux and do what he was doing earlier. You know, use his jab and movement and throw combinations to sort of back him up and keep him off balance. But Lemieux showed that, I mean, he's tenacious, and he's a big two-handed puncher, and those punches took their effect pretty quick. That one shot that sort of rocked Rosado, after that, I don't think he was ever the same. He sort of went into survival mode a lot. and sort of was afraid to stay in there for too long because he was just getting beat the crap out of. And Lemieux showed good skill cutting off the ring. I mean, he would trap him against the ropes and go body and head, and I mean, he just wore him down. So after a certain while, it looked like Rosado just didn't have any fight left in him. Even, when he showed that he could hurt him, but after a while, it looked like he didn't even have anything on his punches. He just didn't want to commit. So it was a good victory for Lemieux. I'd like to see him fight somebody else at 160, like a top 15 guy, and see how he does against somebody else, because other than Rosado, who has he fought really since he's been on his comeback trail?
I might go to you on this one, Attic. I will argue that outside of Triple G and possibly Quillin, there may not be a harder puncher at 160 pounds right now. And what I like about Lemieux in his performance was not just the shots to the head, particularly both right hand and left hook, but I like the punches to the body, particularly the left hook to the body of David Lemieux. When I look at Lemieux, he reminds me of a fighter, one of my all-time favorite fighters from your part of the world, Nigel Benn, the middleweight Nigel Benn on the come-up, because of his style, because of the power, and quite frankly because of how vulnerable he is, and because of the cat has personality outside the ring. He's fairly good with the mic. Your assessment of the fight itself, and your assessment of David Lemieux.
Yeah, I like Lemieux. He's a bit of a caveman, isn't he? He's a bit of a marauding caveman, a bit like Ben was. And all credit to him in this fight. He did what we thought he'd do for the first few rounds, and went after him body to head, and he beat him up basically. But I too had Rosado to come through late and win it. But I think with his eye being in so much of a state so early, it really hampered him through the fight, I think. But there were periods in the fight where, although albeit very small periods in the fight, where Rosado would have a little bit of a comeback, and thought, Lemieux looks a little bit, I don't know about shaky, but a little bit, hittable and hurtable. So he didn't prove a great deal in that fight to me, other than he is, a marauding puncher who can take most people out, who are on a certain level. So, fair play to him. I'd like to see him get the big fights now. He's beating people around, the sort of prospects and the gatekeeper types, and now I think he's ready for a big fight. Put him in there with some of the big boys.
Yeah. You mentioned that. Well, after the bout, Max Kellerman was asking Lemieux about a possible fight in 2015 with the best middleweight in the world right now, Gennady Golovkin. There was the buzz on Twitter as well. Now Golovkin, he has a bout against Martin Murray on February 21, but I guess the talk is that should Triple G beat Murray, he's expected to beat Murray, that may lead to a fight in the summer with Lemieux. I look at that, you guys can chime in, then we can move on. Lemieux, he looked good. I think that was the best performance of his career. He hits hard. He's exciting. He may be able to land shots on Triple G. Matter of fact, he will land shots on Triple G. But in spite of the talk, in spite of the fight, there would be a lot of tension, and you could cut through a knife during that possible fight. Golovkin still beats him. He still beats him. It will be exciting throughout the bout, throughout until the end. But as good as Lemieux looks Saturday night, he's still too vulnerable. There are still lapses in his defense. His chin. Look, Rosado got his attention with a few shots. What happens if Triple G lands those shots on him? So, good fight, exciting fight, but let's hold off on the possibility of, is David Lemieux ready to take Triple G? Because he could be in the ring with him, but at this point, I just don't see him beating him. Not at this point.
No, I think if you put him, maybe put him in with the winner of Korobov for that title, Korobov Lee or something like that. And I don't know what Quillen's doing at the moment, but you know he needs to start fighting soon as well, doesn't he?
Your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, maybe put him in with Jacobs in Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're both vulnerable. They both are sort of unproven at the top level, even though Jacobs has a title. And, you know, it'd be interesting. I know the other side, Korobov Lee, they're sort of going to fight Saunders, whoever wins there. So, you know, that's sort of the opposite side. Maybe they can meet in the middle down the road, and then the winner of that could fight GGG. At least by that time, they'd have a couple belts and show that they were, like, legit.
Yeah, I forgot about Jacobs, actually. That would be a brilliant fight.
I didn't think about that either. That would be a very good fight, you know, if I could be easily made. And, yeah, put it in Brooklyn and could make some decent money for both of those guys. So let's move on to undercard bout as Hugo Centeno Jr., very impressive fifth-round stoppage over James De La Rosa in the undercard. I've seen Centeno Jr. fight before in a fight against what's his name? Julian Williams. It was stopped due to cuts after 4 rounds, no contest. I was thinking, he's okay and whatnot. He's a decent fighter, but I did not see this performance against De La Rosa. Very impressive. He kind of blew De La Rosa away. The same De La Rosa who beat, who basically had his way with Alfred Angulo earlier this year. I'll go to you on this one, Sean. Your thoughts on Centeno? Tall, very cool in the ring. I like his composure and his patience in the ring. And again, just like with Lemieux, the distribution of punches hit up and down, and knocking a guy down with the jab. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I saw the Julian Williams fight, and at that point, you know, I wasn't too excited. That's why I picked De La Rosa to beat him after he sort of blitzed Angulo. But I was sort of disappointed with De La Rosa. He looked really vulnerable and looked like he was hurt by almost everything he got hit by, and bad balance. But he looked great. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, tall, real long, sort of rangy fighter with a strong jab. I mean, the punch that he threw, I mean, a big crazy left hook, you know, or overhand sort of left, and showed that he had great right hand as well. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he does when he steps up. But I mean, as far as body and, you know, he's a good-looking kid, so you can see that marketing-wise he's going to be pushed.
Were you able to see the fight, Attic, and if so, your impressions?
I did see it, yeah. Yeah, it was, the first few rounds were pretty sort of steady, weren't they? And Centeno was using his jab and using his distance, and he kind of hit him down with that jab, didn't he? That snappy kind of jab. Great knockout. You know, it was. I don't know if he's got huge punching power or whether it was just timed so well, but great shot. So yeah, let's see where he goes from here. He's an unbeaten guy. I was really disappointed with De La Rosa. That was probably the main thing. He never got going in the fight at all.
I'm not going to say that Centeno is ready for a title shot right now, not yet. But I want to go at this angle with him. When you look at Centeno and the other up-and-coming fighters at 154, like a Julian Williams, who I think still has potential, the Charlo brothers, Errol Spence, who I believe is going to be fighting at 154 pounds permanently because I'm hearing he has issues making the weight. When you look at 154, you got Canelo, you got Ishe Smith, you got Molina, you got Demetrius Andrade, you got who's fighting tonight? Austin Trout, he's going to be fighting tonight. Let's look beyond that. When you look at the up-and-coming fighters, well, I think Andrade is still up-and-coming even though he has a belt. He hasn't fully developed yet. When you look at the youth and the guys that are on the come up at 154 pounds. A very promising division.
Yeah, lots of good young fighters.
Yeah, definitely. You know, whether Centeno is going to be able to mix it at the top level, we don't know yet, but he's certainly there with all the prospects coming through, yeah.
How would you compare with him, Centeno, with the prospects, with the Charlo brothers, with the Errol Spence? I would throw Andrade in there as well.
Well, Andrade looks the best of them all for me, and Jamel Charlo looks pretty good, but I wouldn't put him up there with those two. Who was the other guy you mentioned?
Errol Spence.
I haven't seen enough of him, to be honest.
I think Spence is going to be the best of the lot.
Really?
That's just my opinion.
Me too.
Your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, no, I think Errol Spence is the best out of all of those guys by far. And I mean, that's not like a criticism towards any of them because I mean, you know, they've all proven themselves already. I mean, of course, they're still young and they have a lot more to do. It would have been nice this weekend if we would have got to see Charlo against Andrade, if he didn't like try to run away from that fight. And then maybe we would have a little more clarity. But yeah, I mean, this kid against them, I mean, he does have some things in his favor. I mean, he's tall and he's got a good jab, so it would be interesting to see. But as far as power and speed, I don't know how he's going to fit in with those guys because, I mean, they're all pretty slick as well, and they all have lots of skill. So, you know, I mean, it'd be interesting to see him with a guy like Carlos Molina, who's sort of trying to reinvent himself after things not going his way. And he's a little shorter, but, you know, a different kind of style where maybe his benefits would help him against a guy like him and sort of build off of his big win on the weekend.
Also on the same card in Brooklyn, Tomas Dulorme scored a split decision win over Hank Lundy. And I'll go to you on this one, Boxing Addict. I don't know if you saw the bout, but I look at this bout and I see this more as a case of what Hank Lundy did not do as opposed to what Dulorme did. Maybe Hank Lundy was shook by the fact that he got knocked down the first round of the bout, but as the fight went on, I just felt that there were opportunities for Lundy to be effective. He didn't do enough body work. He didn't use the jab enough. The punch out rate by Dulorme and the jab by Dulorme, that basically took the toll. That basically was the difference in the fight. And for me, I had high hopes for Hank Lundy. I came away somewhat disappointed in his performance. Good win for Dulorme, but I'm giving some side eye here to Hank Lundy. I'm like, what are you doing? This is your fight. You're on HBO. This is your opportunity to show and prove, and he just didn't do it.
Yeah, well, this was the first time I'd seen Lundy. It was making me laugh, first of all, when he come in the ring with that face, you know. It was quite amusing, but...
That's just him. That's just him.
Yeah. I agree with you. He kind of threw the fight away, really. But for the first few rounds, I was listening to the HBO commentary, and Andre Ward was just doing my head in. He was basically saying that Lundy was controlling the fight and he was winning the rounds, and I had like Lorme probably 3 or 4 rounds up out of the first 4 rounds. So yeah, I don't know what he was watching, but then he did start coming back into the fight, and he looked pretty rocky, didn't he? The last 3 or 4 rounds, Dulorme, he looked ready for the taking, but he just couldn't find that little bit extra to get him out of there. So yeah, he did throw his chance away, really. But fair play, Dulorme, you know, boxed really, really well for like 5 or 6 rounds, and then just tired out or whatever happened to him. I don't know if he's had stamina issues before, but I had it in the end. I had it 6 rounds. I had it 6 rounds to 4 to Dulorme with a point on top. So I had him winning by 3 points in the end.
Your thoughts, Sean? Because I was watching the fight and I was listening to the corner of Hank Lundy, and his cornerman Barry Hunter was kind of imploring him, do more, pick up the pace. And while he did, it just wasn't enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I thought based on Dulorme's last fight, he seemed vulnerable. and I figured a veteran like Lundy was going to be able to step it up and put the pressure on him and finish him and wear him down and stop him late. But Dulorme showed what we know. You know, he's a good boxer, and early on he controlled the fight. I don't know what Ward was saying, and then the knockdown didn't make it any better. And then, you know, Hunter in the corner really pushed Lundy to like step it up in like the 6th or 7th round, and he came out with like, you know, an ass full of fire, and I mean really pushed it and did something. And I mean, he was fighting well, and he was pressuring him and trapping against the ropes and keep fighting. You know, he wasn't like letting him off. But after 2 or 3 rounds of that, I thought basically he just let him off. He was walking in, not using his jab, not going body and head, trying to like open up a shot. He was just like walking in, getting countered, trying to throw big head shots and hope that something would land. And I thought he threw away his chance as well. I mean, because Dulorme, he doesn't look very confident once, I mean, the fight's not going his way. And even
Right.
his corner was telling him, just box, man. Just do what you do in the gym. Just box and move. It's not hard. Just box and move and counter. And yeah, the pressure seemed to get to him a little bit, which is why I wasn't so confident about him to start the fight. You know, I mean, skill-wise, he looks like he's got the tools, but in his head, he looks like he's vulnerable and willing to crumble if the pressure gets too much. And Lundy just, you know, a guy that talks so much, talking about how he's going to beat Crawford and beat this guy and beat that guy, and he's the truth and this and that, and then he gets a big chance on cable TV, and he comes in and he just doesn't push it like he should. I thought from round 1 he should have just been getting the guy in the corners and punishing him. But he's trying to outbox a guy who is longer and a good boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I would like to see a rematch between these two. I don't know if it will happen. So with that being said, let's talk about Dulorme. Do you see any future for him, any potential for him against any of the top big names at 140 pounds? Because I just don't see it, whether it be Peterson, whether it be Garcia, even a Jesse Vargas, Algieri, Provodnikov, Crawford, who's planning to move up, Broner. He's a decent fighter, but I just don't see him winning any of those fights.
I think he could be okay against similar boxers. You know, he could win fights by outboxing people and, you know, getting decisions and stuff. But if you put him in with a Provodnikov or somebody who's a pressure fighter like Lundy, but somebody who will really put the pressure on, I don't rate his chances really.
He lacks confidence to me. Speaking to what Sean was saying earlier, he lacks a certain confidence there. Get him in a little bit of adversity, he kind of falls apart.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe it is that. Maybe it's his stamina, or I don't know if he's big at the weight or something. I don't know, but he seemed to really crumble after 6 or 7 rounds.
He did go up in weight, and that's when he got beat against Abergu, so then he came back down.
Right, okay. Yeah, he's tall at the weight, certainly, isn't he? So, I don't know. He's a good boxer. I don't know if it's the stamina issues, like I say, or whether it's he loses heart during a fight when he's under pressure. But you know, he's very decent. He's certainly got the skills. If he can last a fight out against somebody who's putting pressure on, then you know he's up there.
It'd be interesting to see him against some guys. I mean, like you say, pressure fighters like Vargas and Ruslan, guys like that. I think they would be too much for him because they wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
But a guy like Algieri, who's more of a moving boxer, you know, I mean, that would be an interesting fight. See the two guys with similar styles against each other.
But I think Algieri would outbox him. The movement and the hand speed would be too much for him.
Yeah, maybe. But I think he has more power than Algieri, so that could be something that plays in too. A guy like Peterson, who isn't much of a boxer, I know he gets lots of credit, but he's more of an infighter. I mean, he's really good at getting to that inside the jab and throwing inside punches and roughing a guy up. It would be interesting because he's also not a big puncher. So a fight like that, you know, it would be interesting. I could see Peterson wearing him down and stopping him late, but I mean, it would be a good fight.
Yeah. I've got a question for you, actually. You might know. Ricky Burns is supposed to be announcing a fight against an Al Heyman fighter in the next week or so. Who would that be at lightweight? Who's he got?
Heyman.
Ooh, Bay. That's the
Oh,
only
yeah.
thing I can think of. That's the only guy I can think about.
Ah, right. It probably is.
You
Probably
get a
is.
title shot right out of the gate, eh?
That would be really messed up considering how he has looked over the past year and a half. Something would be that would be wrong. I'll just put it that way. That would be wrong if he would just all of a sudden get a title shot against a Mickey Bay.
But
Yeah,
I can
well,
understand it's a bit of give and take, right?
yeah. Well, Eddie Hearn and Heyman are best mates now, aren't they? So.
Well, and Heyman has opened the gates for Hearn, so I mean, or Hearn has opened the gates for Heyman, giving him some big names. So I guess he's got to like open his gate and let a guy like Burns have like one last shot.
Yeah, I actually don't mind that. Give him one last shot at the title. He's proved to me that he's not really good enough, Burns. But you never know. He might have one fight left in him. Give him one last shot, and then we can be shot of him.
Yeah, because they're talking about quite a few fights. I mean, between those two, like 3 big fights.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking stuff up right now. I'm not seeing a potential who that a guy would be, but the only thing I can think of, only lightweight I can figure out how Heyman's staple is Mickey Bay, who just a few months back beat Israel Vasquez with the IBF belt controversially. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's somebody further down the rankings, but yeah, I wasn't sure when he said it was an Al Heyman fighter.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. I'll look that up. Look that up after the show. If I can find anything. Let's move on to kind of the strange development, strange happening involving the John Pascal's no contest, 2-round no contest over Roberto Bolonti. A lot of buzz about how this fight ended. Significant bout because should Pascal survive or win, he is set to fight Sergey Kovalev next March. March the 14th, as a matter of fact, in Canada, in either Montreal or Quebec City. And I don't know if any of you guys saw the ending of this, but I'll just kind of give a quick explanation. They were in a clinch along the ropes as Bolonti was kind of doing some rabbit punching on Pascal. The referee stepped in, tried to approach Pascal from behind to break him. Within the midst of a break, Pascal landed a right hand, kind of forearm type punch to the head. Bolonti kind of dropped down like he'd been shot. It didn't look that bad, but the fact is, Bolonti, he didn't move. Eventually, they carried him out the ring, out the stretcher. I don't know if any of you guys saw it. I saw a vine of it, like a quick 15-second vine of it. Kind of reminded me, Sean, I'll go see you on this one, of Terry Norris and his bouts with Luis Santana, which he was obviously faking, and he ended up winning the bouts winning Norris's bout on a via disqualification. Fought a rematch. He ended up winning that rematch on a battle with the same disqualification where funky things went on. I'm not saying that Bolonti did fake. I do not know, but just strange endings. Just a strange ending to the bout. Did you see it, or did you see it, Attic? And if so, your thoughts on what went down Saturday in Montreal?
I didn't see it, but once I heard what was happening, I sort of wasn't interested at all because I mean that fight was just a stay busy fight before the Kovalev fight, and I was thinking if it went that way, I mean, who cares? No big deal. I mean, it's not a good selling point for pushing the Kovalev fight, but Pascal still has a name, so I think it won't interfere with the fight at all.
I saw the fight, and it was pretty annoying actually because it was looking like it was going to be a good fight. Bolonti actually landed a couple of really hard right hands, and it looked like it was going to be, a pretty good fight until obviously what happened. It was a bit of a Darrell type situation, He's rolling around on the floor, and then he just didn't move. I saw a piece by, I think it was in Ring Magazine or something online, saying that the promoter of Bolonti was shouting to him in Spanish at ringside to stay down.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, apparently there's some footage of that on somebody's mobile or something. But yeah, so, and apparently this guy's got a bit of a history before, back in Argentina, of being a little bit dodgy or doing something dodgy in the ring before. So yeah, it was disappointing because the fight was hotting up. Pascal was looking good actually, but Bolonti also was putting a bit of pressure on him and landing these really hard right hands, and he thought, geez, if Pascal gets caught with one of them, he might be in trouble. So yeah, it's just disappointing the way it ended, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about one final fight. We should have mentioned it last week, but we didn't for some reason. I apologize for it. And I'm going to give you, Sean, the floor to talk about this bout because I've only seen a little bit of it. As one Francisco Estrada, scoring a 10-round 9 title win over Gilberto Alvarez. From what little I've seen of it, Alvarez, even though a nondescript record, was a little bit better than his record indicates. And I'll give you the floor, Sean. Your impressions of the fight and what went down Saturday in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to see him in there against another guy leading up to a big rematch with Roman Gonzalez in 2015. And I wasn't sure who that guy was. I checked him out in BoxRec, and I could see that he's like a younger fighter that he hadn't beaten anybody too significant at that weight and wasn't ranked so high. So I thought mostly it was just going to be a stay busy, look good fight. But he came out and he was a good fighter, a good little fighter, and scrappy and had a lot going for him. But the fight got a lot rough. A lot of heads were thrown in there, and both guys ended up getting cut, and it ended up going to the cards, where he won the decision pretty handily. But I mean, it was a pretty good fight as far as fighting a guy that wasn't really a big name or anybody that was expected to give him much of a fight.
I'll go to you on this one quickly, Attic. Juan Francisco Estrada, who I should mention, holds the WBA and WBO belt at flyweight. Talk of him, as Sean mentioned, of him fighting a rematch with Roman Gonzalez, who recently moved up to flyweight to win WBC belt. Made his first title defense just a few weeks ago. A couple of months, month and a half ago, I should say. Have you seen Estrada fight? And if so, your impressions of him?
I haven't seen enough of him, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I've seen Gonzalez a few times, but I've not seen Estrada, so I couldn't comment on that fight if that were to happen, to be honest. But your man Inouye's supposed to be going up there, isn't he? Or is he skipping that way?
Actually, Inouye is going. He's Omar Inouye. We will talk about that. Probably we're going to have during our final show of the year. We're going to put a whole bunch of stuff in one show, kind of an end of the year wrap up. Inouye is going to be fighting Omar Narvaez. He's skipping 112 and moving all the way up to 115 pounds. He's going to be fighting him on either the 30th or the 31st. I can't remember what date, but yeah.
Oh, right, that fight's happening, is it?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, but Estrada's worth watching. I mean, this year he's fought quite a few of the top contenders and looked pretty good. I mean, actually really embarrassing one of the guys, making him look really old. I can't remember his name, but like a perennial champion. Segura. He made him look terrible. Wow. That's why it's okay, so interesting to watch him against a guy who doesn't have the class of a Segura or like the back behind him, but definitely has the class of Segura, who came out and gave him a far tougher fight. And the Roman Gonzalez fight, the last time they fought, it was a close fight. Some people even had Estrada winning. I thought Roman Gonzalez did more, but it'll lead to a great rematch for sure.
Yeah, let's hope the rematch happens. For those who don't know, they initially fought around the week of Thanksgiving, 2012, fought in Anaheim, California, the toughest fight of Gonzalez's career so far, in which Estrada moved down to 108 pounds, fought for Gonzalez, then WBA belt. Estrada, he kind of, from that bout, he's one of the more improved fighters in the world, moved up to 112, beat Brian Valera in pretty impressive fashion in Macau, has had a series of successful title defenses against good opposition. Gonzalez, of course, made a few decisions that went away. He recently moved up to 112 pounds. Won the bout earlier this year over Akira Yagashi in Japan. Recently had a title defense again in Japan. And it's hope, and we hope, right? And we hope that they fight sometime in the first half of 2015. Their first fight was one of the fights of the year in 2012, and if they should fight again, I think it will be a very good fight once again. Let's move on to the news segment of the show. Light in terms of the news, in terms of boxing news this week. Only thing that I know of that kind of really folks were talking about was the ongoing negotiation between Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez. There are talks underway about them possibly fighting in May 2015, hopefully around Cinco de Mayo weekend, that time period. I'll go to you on this, Sean. You can follow up Boxing Addict. From what I'm hearing, that Canelo Alvarez has basically said, let's do this, while Cotto is kind of Team Cotto is a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more slow in terms of negotiations and whatnot. From your end, Sean, and you can follow in as well, Addict. Of course, Sean, you're everywhere. You're all over the place. From your insight and from your research, have you heard anything about the ongoing negotiations for this bout? Is it close to happening? Are we far apart in negotiation? What's the deal?
From what they've been saying the last week, it seems like it's pretty close. I mean, Canelo already signed the agreement, and I suppose that's mostly with all the concessions that Cotto's team has pushed forward, because we know, like, after the Sergio Martinez stuff, he likes to be definitely the A side, which, I mean, in this fight, I think Canelo has no problem doing that to get a big fight like that, because he wants to take that date from Floyd, and having a guy like Cotto to fight will totally, I mean, who can Floyd fight other than Manny that's going to be a bigger fight than Cotto-Canelo? So it looks like it's a done deal. I mean, I think Cotto's team will probably just try to push for a little more. I mean, since they're sort of the A side and have like a little more press, and they can see that Canelo definitely wants to fight. I mean, I think one of the problems was Cotto wanted it on the Puerto Rican birthday or holiday, right? He was hoping it would be in New York, where he's got
Puerto Rican parade, and which happens in June.
Yeah, so I think a lot of that plays in, because, I mean, for him, he's like one of the top pay-per-view guys in boxing, so, I mean, that's his date. So I think he wants to continue to push his date, whereas Canelo is trying to push his date. So we will see how that plays out. But, I mean, it looks like it's progressing well, and I can't see why either one of them wouldn't take that fight, because, I mean, it's a big money fight.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be an exciting fight. And all the people that hate on Canelo, I mean, you can't criticize the guy too much. He's just fighting the best guys out there.
Yeah,
whether he won or lost.
Right. You mentioned the Mayweather angle. It's kind of a little side angle going on here, is that Canelo wants that May date to kind of steal thunder from Floyd. As that we all know, Floyd fights basically 22 times a year, in May around Cinco de Mayo, and in September area around, Mexican Independence Day. Those are the two main dates. Those are one of the two hot dates in boxing in terms of pay-per-view is concerned, obviously. So it's a little bit of a competition there, back and forth, about stealing pay-per-view numbers, making more money. Who's the bigger guy? Who's the bigger draw? Well, Mayweather is the bigger draw, but Canelo, he's trying to weave his way in there and steal, like I said before, steal some thunder from Floyd. I'll go to you on this one, Addict. Your thoughts on the negotiations between Canelo and Cotto?
Yeah, great fight if it happens. I think, everybody knows the same at the moment, don't they? I think that Alvarez has signed it, Cotto's still going through it. With regards to the actual date, I'm not sure how that will work if Mayweather wants to fight on the same weekend. Would it be on the same night?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's HBO and Showtime. I'm taking it.
Yeah.
Well, that wouldn't work financially for either of them, though, would it?
Well,
actually, it could. Yes, it could.
How would that work? Would people have to pay for both, and then you're saying they would make money out of it? I don't know.
You got to keep in mind, both have their segment of fans, contingents of fans that's going to pay regardless. Canelo fans ain't going to really care that much about Floyd having the fight, and Floyd fans are not really going to care that much about Canelo. They're going to go out en masse and support. Their fan base is going to support their fighters regardless. They're not going to necessarily choose.
I'd imagine there'll be, your general boxing fans, though, who would choose one of the two, so they would lose out financially a little bit. I don't know.
My question is, what is the weight for this bout?
I think it's going to be under 160, like 156 or something.
Because as we all know,
55, right, for the middleweight title.
Because as we all know, Canelo has, I don't care what folks say, Canelo has issues making 154. Even if they put it up to 155, 156, Canelo's going to have issues making that weight.
Yeah, he didn't.
While Cotto is really essentially a junior middleweight, even though he has a belt at 160, so I'm just wondering what's the weight going to be.
I think they should have it at 160 for the middleweight championship.
But 160 is anywhere between 155 and 160. So
yeah, middleweight is really 155 to 160, yeah.
Yeah, well, they should have it at 160, shouldn't they, for his championship? He's still the champ, isn't he? So why doesn't he just defend the belt against
Yeah, but what he was saying is, even if it's a code of defense, it really doesn't matter. As long as they don't exceed 160 pounds, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. So my question is, will Cotto, for instance, really being the 154-pound guy, will he make a contractual weight saying that the fight will have to happen at, say, 156, 155 and a half, 167, not allowing Alvarez to fight at 160 pounds? Because if he was to move up to fight and if he had his way, he would fight at the full-blown 160 pound where he'd be much more comfortable. He don't want to have to shred and sweat out extra weight, extra pounds to lose, because he struggles to get down to that weight.
Well, it's going to be catch weight because Cotto is the A side, and he's not going to have it at 160.
Right. That would give Canelo the advantage.
158.
Yeah. I suppose, but I think although Cotto obviously is a small middleweight and only went up there to beat a broken down Martinez.
Keep in mind, fellas, that when he fought Martinez, he only weighed 155.
Was he? Right. Okay. Yeah, so, it looks like a catch weight would be the one then, wouldn't it? Cotto won't give up that ground then.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
I think
he has that right because he is the belt holder.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, how do you see that fight going?
Ooh.
By stoppage.
Who?
Canelo by stoppage.
Ooh. I'm not gonna go that. Ooh. If Cotto can move, look, we know Sergio Martinez was kind of broken down because of the knees and the age and the wear and tear. But still, if Canelo can still move like that, the jab and the combinations get to the body of Canelo, Cotto's still a hell of a body puncher. You use that with the jab, you use that with movement, I think he could beat him.
Yeah.
The question is, can he do it against a young, strong guy for 12 rounds?
Well, this is it. Nobody has really beaten Alvarez up yet, have they?
Right.
So, can Cotto do that? I'm not sure. I think it would go about 10, possibly 11 rounds with somebody really taking a good hammer in, and I'm not sure which one. Probably, I'd have to go with Alvarez, really, just being the younger guy, but it wouldn't surprise me if Cotto were to beat him.
Yeah, I'm saying that because I don't think Cotto as good of a puncher is. Think about Canelo; he has a heck of a chin. Hadn't really seen him hurt. Yeah,
so. Like Cotto's brother.
Say again.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right. But still, Alvarez will be the favorite to a lot of folks because of the younger guy. But Cotto could lick him. I'm serious about that. Cotto could lick him.
My question for you: what last prime top-level fighter has Cotto beat?
You're right.
You need to go far back.
But
not Claudy. He got the win off Claudy, but he didn't beat Claudy. So you have to go farther back than that.
You don't think Cotto beat Claudy?
No.
I think he did.
But it's a tough, close fight.
It was a very close fight. Yeah.
That's the last legitimate prime top-level fighter that he beat. Since he went to 154, he hasn't beat anybody. Margarito was not prime, and yeah, and he, yeah, and Sergio definitely wasn't. And then he lost to Trout.
But you got to understand him with Alvarez. He's still a dude who fights in spurts.
Sure.
And a consistent guy will take advantage of that every time. A consistent fighter who is good and skilled, and Cotto is good and skilled. Alvarez he can only get away so many times with fighting in spurts and fighting only portions of a round and getting away with it.
So he's going to be better. I mean, his last fight, stamina wasn't such an issue.
But again, it depends. If I was Cotto, I'd make that fight as low as possible. I'd make it at 156.
Sure, which is what he fought last time against Lara.
And make Alvarez be depleted coming down that low in weight and just go for broke.
It'll be a good fight.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that we can agree on. That would be a good fight. I'm not saying that Alvarez couldn't win. I'm just thinking I wouldn't count Cotto out. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, well, I think whoever Mayweather's fighting on that night, if I were to choose, I'd be going for the Alvarez-Cotto.
Who's Floyd going to fight that's going to draw as much as that fight? It's Mexican holiday. None of the Mexicans are going to watch Floyd against Khan.
No.
None.
I think the only way they could maybe make money out of Khan is that Khan does have a big fan base.
They better fight in the UK.
Yeah, that's the only way. If that fight happens in England.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't see him doing that.
No. He won't leave Vegas.
No, we know how Floyd likes everything in his favour. He ain't going to do that.
Yeah.
But you know what? He'd get a lot of credit if he did. It'd be good if he did something like that because he needs to, you know.
Well, it's like going to Dubai to fight Manny. Dubai is pristine, A-class, man. There's nothing wrong with fighting in Dubai. If you're going to be getting big money to fight there, go. You're both on the road, and I mean everything there is going to be like not 5-star. Dubai is like 6-star. Everything is better. So it's not like training and food and water and everything is going to be like, you know, third world. It's going to be like,
oh yeah.
Just to update folks for those who do not know, there was an offer from some a management group in Dubai to have Mayweather and Pacquiao fight there. $200 million purse. Of that, Mayweather would get $110 million of that bout. And from what I'm hearing from hearsay, they would let Mayweather run the show.
Yeah, promote it,
run his own show. And word is that Mayweather ultimately said no, that he wants 2/3 of the purse, and that's it. Nothing has come up since. But yeah, there's been an offer for him and Pacquiao to fight in Dubai.
He would also pay-per-view.
Yeah.
He would have to split pay-per-view with the group who's putting up $200 million.
Yeah.
So he would make more than the money they offered him, because Manny would be bumped out of the pay-per-view in favor of those two groups. But Manny would get an upfront 80.
He would get upfront 80 with while Floyd. If the fight would have went through, he would have got the 110 million plus whatever money from pay-per-view. So he could get up conceivably 150 million plus.
It's just annoying now, though, isn't it? I mean, when you start talking about hundreds of millions of pounds, you know, who cares once you start getting into that money? Just fight.
Exactly. The dude you're making $150 million for fighting in fucking Dubai. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And you know, Floyd isn't going to do that. He ain't going to go out of his home comforts and running the show and everything else. He hasn't wanted to fight Manny in Vegas for 5 years, so he's not going to go to Dubai to do it.
But Dubai was also going to give his managerial company all the rights for boxing there. So he could end up pushing fights there and make lots of money down the road as well. So they were like trying to open it up for more of a boxing sort of thing, right, with him being the main promoter. So it's not a bad opportunity, man, as far as business.
And I'm a fan of Mayweather, the fighter, and I make the distinction on purpose, the fighter. And I think he would beat Pacquiao. You know, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, Floyd, maybe you should have taken that. You should have really thought about that offer, because I do not know if you're going to get any more that kind of money fighting here in the States. I just don't see it.
No, but as I say, it's not even down to money anymore, is it? Because it's just fight or don't fight.
And that's my thing. Ultimately, you hear the talk about the fight, and I know we're kind of going off a topic here. And I've said this before. You hear them talk about the fight. We've been hearing this talk about the fight for at least the past 5 years, maybe 6. Sign the contract, because I blame not just Mayweather. I blame all parties involved. Arum, Heyman, even Pacquiao to a certain extent. Let's just let the fight, just make the fight happen, because that's the fight the folks want to see ultimately at the end of the day. I think they are better in terms of in the ring talent. You know, I've said it before in terms of in the ring talent, level talent. There are fights out there that I would want to see just as bad as Mayweather and Pacquiao, but at the end of the day, even I would concede that's the biggest fight out there. That's the fight that folks want to see. Just damn it, make it happen.
But this is it. There's been too many cuts, hasn't there, over the years? Everybody getting involved, managers, promoters, broadcasters. You know, it's just been a massive mess. If the two fighters just said, all right, let's split it 50-50 or 60-40 and let's do it.
Yeah, just be adults about it. You come together like adults, like men, and just make the fight happen, because historically, when you've had bouts of this significance, it has happened. Leonard Hearns happened. Trinidad De La Hoya happened.
Hagler Leonard
happened.
Yeah.
Tyson Lennox
happened. Tyson Spinks happened. Tyson Lewis happened. Hagler Leonard, Hagler Hearns, Leonard Duran. You can go back and back. Right. They all happen. It would be a real shame if this fight just didn't happen, but just make it happen. Enough of the talk. And we just going off on our little rant there, but let's move on and start to shut the show down by doing a preview of what's happening this weekend. A lot of boxing happening this Saturday night, fellas. Dual cards, competing cards on both HBO and Showtime. I want to start a bit with the Showtime card first, and I will give Heyman a little bit credit here. There's a lot of complaints about him from folks, but he has responded by putting together a monster card. This Saturday night in Showtime. Devon Alexander's fighting Amir Khan. Keith Thurman is fighting Leonard Bundu. Abner Mars is fighting on the card. The Charlo brothers are fighting on the card. Victor Ortiz making his return to the ring. Bedul Shumanov, he's going to be fighting. Errol Spence, who we mentioned earlier in the show, he's going to be fighting. This is a massive card. But I want to focus just on a couple of bouts, because if we go through all those bouts, we'll be going past time. Start with the main event here. Devon Alexander fighting Amir Khan. 12-round bout. To me, this bout should have happened last year when the fight was really hot. Prior to Alexander's loss in which he lost the belt to Sean Porter. But be that as it may, the fight's being made now. I'll go to you on this one, Attic. You can follow up Sean. Intriguing bout. Both guys can move. Both guys have speed. Both guys showed a little bit of vulnerability, particularly Khan with his chin. Your thoughts on this bout? What are your keys to the bout? What's your prediction?
Yeah, it's a tough one to call, actually. They're both highly skilled. Obviously, Khan's super fast. Still has those stamina worries, though. Still has those, that problem with his chin, where if he gets hit with a good shot, he's out of it. So it's always an intriguing fight with Khan involved. I see it very 50-50, actually. Khan could win the fight if he boxes well for 12 rounds, but I see it being very, very close, actually. Alexander's a very good fighter. Does he want it enough? I mean, this is really a fight that puts somebody up there for a fight with Mayweather, so there's a lot on the line. There's a lot of pressure in this fight. I'd have to side with Khan, but to be honest, I don't mind if he gets knocked on his arse.
Your thoughts, Sean?
One question. What has Khan done to lefties?
Not much.
Yeah.
He dominated them.
Well, yeah, you're right. I'm thinking, I forgot about his last bout with Colosso. Yeah.
All of them. I mean, what did he do to Judah?
Yeah. Yeah.
He dominates left-hand fighters.
I
He's
think
going
that's
to
why.
dominate Alexander. His
Yeah.
speed is too much. He's just as good a boxer, if not better. Alexander throws lots of punches, but don't land anything. He doesn't have any power at 147. Hasn't stopped one guy at this weight. I think Khan kicks his ass.
You don't see a scenario where Alexander.
No.
He has to go for broke, because if he's not, he's in danger of being like kind of not a non-main eventer.
When has he ever went for broke? Nobody folds like Alexander. I have chairs in my house that don't fold as easy as him.
I just think that because he knows that Khan doesn't have a great chin, that Khan can be hit, that Khan can be problem with Khan is sometimes he fights like he's ate some jumping beans before the fight. He just don't know how to settle his ass down. I think Alexander knows this, and he sees the flaws, and I think this may be the opportunity where he may go for broke. He feels he's the sturdier guy.
If he does that, Khan by stoppage.
Yeah, Khan's capable of stopping him, definitely. He's looked a little bit better recently. And like you say, can Alexander knock him out? Maybe it may be the case that he's with Al Heyman now, isn't he, Khan? Maybe Al Heyman's picked out Alexander for him as a prep fight, and it's not as close as I see it. You might be right, but I'm always suspect with Khan. Unfortunately, he's always got that liability about his chin and.
And that's the thing. This guy was the same dude who got knocked down and was hurt by Julio Diaz.
But he got up and won.
Barely. I don't think he won.
I had that 6 rounds each, I think.
I don't think he won.
No. I'd probably agree with you. I think I may have even scored that to Diaz, but
with the knockdown, I think Diaz beat him by a point.
Yeah, I agree. And nobody really made a big deal out of that, did they? I thought it was ridiculous. I was jumping up and down at the time. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I like Khan. He used to be a bit of a hero in Britain, getting his silver medal in the Olympics and stuff. And he's obviously a great boxer. There's no doubt about it. Super fast. He's actually, I know a lot of people will laugh, but he's possibly one of the only people out there I think would give Mayweather a really hard fight.
You know what? I'm not going to laugh at that, because physically he has the height, he has the speed, he has the legs to give Mayweather angles, to give Mayweather the angles to give him a possibly good fight. But at the end of the day, there are defensive lapses to Khan, and there's that chin issue that, no.
Yeah. This is it, but I remember Khan putting down Maidana with that, left foot, that body punch, and if Khan really goes after somebody early in the rounds, you never know. Is Mayweather ready for the taking now? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm with you, Alec. It's a 50-50 fight. Both fighters should be highly motivated. Alexander, he still wants to remain at the top level. At 140, 147. Khan, he wants to win to get that fight with either Mayweather or that big fight with Kell Brook in 2015. So, I don't know. I just don't know. Khan should be the favorite, but you can't make him the overwhelming for my book, because there's the issue of that beard. He gets hit with a decent punch. He gets hurt, and when he gets hurt,
he's only been stopped by 2 big punchers. That's all. Only 2 big punchers stopped him.
But he gets hurt, he has a tendency to stay hurt.
But he's only got stopped by 2 big punchers. So you can question his chin when he drains himself down to make 140. But I mean, the point is, he only got stopped by 2 big punchers. Yeah. So I mean, his chin is shaky, that's true. But I mean, he hasn't got stopped by normal, average punchers.
We will definitely see. We will definitely see. It's a very intriguing fight for that matter. On the undercard, another card on that big Vegas card, Keith Thurman will be fighting Leonard Bundu, defending his belt. Look, Thurman, he should win. I think he will win. But I think there's some folks who are kind of sleeping on Bundu. I may be alone in this assessment. Sure, Bundu is 39, but to me, he's a young 39, if there is such a thing. He started very late. I think that he will give Keith Thurman a decent tussle in this fight. Will he win? No, I don't think so. But I think this will be a halfway decent fight.
Yeah, I actually think Bundu will take him 12 rounds. I think it will surprise a lot of people. But I think Thurman will win.
I see you shaking your head over there, Sean.
6 rounds. Bundu will come out, play aggressive, but he's too small, too old. He doesn't have any power. Thurman will just walk through him, and eventually he will stop him.
I see it that this is Bundu's obviously big opportunity. I think he's going to give it a really good go, and I think he might last it out because he's a pretty tough dude.
That's why he's going to get stopped.
Say again?
That's why he's going to get stopped.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, you know, there's no doubt Thurman's probably capable of stopping anybody, isn't he? But I think Bundu will have a little bit more than people think.
So do I. I just think he's a tough nut. Thurman will eventually wear him down and get the win, but I just don't. If he blows him out, I would be highly impressed. But I just don't see if he just blowing on him over and he'll just have his absolute way with him now.
Bundu, though, you know, he's been good against C-level competition.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You don't know until somebody steps up, but sometimes they surprise you, don't they?
Sure.
I think the fact that he still is unbeaten, he's going over there, he knows he's taking on an absolute beast, so I think he's just going to give it everything. And I don't know. I don't see Thurman blowing him out like he did. I don't know, like a Diaz or Quintana or something like that.
Chavez.
Say again?
Chavez.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting fight until he stops him, like it was with Chavez.
Yeah.
We will see about that. Like I said, if he wins, I will be very impressed. I will be highly impressed. Let's move on to a bout that's happening actually tomorrow night. I kind of skipped this bout. Erislandy and Lara are going to be fighting Ishe Smith. Lara defending a belt. Let's just put it that way, a belt. Lara, who I felt beat Canelo, fighting an Ishe Smith, a guy who he's a solid fighter, but I've always been disappointed in him. He's always come up short in the biggest of big fights. Just doesn't do enough as far as I'm concerned. Am I wrong in just thinking that at the end of the day, Lara, he moves too well, he's too talented, he's too fast, too much of a mover, too much of an overall boxer for the likes of Ishe Smith, who just doesn't throw enough punches?
Yeah, well, I certainly agree with that. I think Lara will be too much for him. And I also agree that Lara beat Canelo in my book.
I thought Canelo beat him because Lara threw the fight away because he didn't throw any punches and he ran too much. And taking this fight after that fight, I don't think is a great move because this guy is not a fighter that's going to make him look good. It's going to be an ugly fight, but I think he's going to win pretty easily. But it's not going to be an exciting fight to watch.
Oh, it has. It depends on Lara's mindset. If he decides to move around and whatever, this fight will. Let's just face it. It has a high probability of turning out to be a stinker. But if Lara sets down, which I think he has an opportunity to because he's a faster guy, he can step and use angles and land punches on this guy. Lara can be very impressive as far as I'm concerned. So Lara will win. We all agree on that. But it's just in terms of how exciting the bout will be. Depends on Lara. It's at the end of the day, the fight is going to be on Erislandy Lara in terms of how he looks. If he looks well, he could see big fights in the future for him at 154 or 160. If not, he's just going to be the same run-of-the-mill kind of guy who has a belt, but nobody really wants to see.
You know, the problem with Smith, though, I mean, he's a survivor, so he's not going to make it easy for Lara to look good. He's just going to like hold and move and make the fight really ugly, and he's just going to ugly it up, and it's going to be hard. It's hard to look good against a guy that doesn't allow you to like have a fight, and that's what Smith's going to do.
Right. Let's move on to the Lara bout with Ishe Smith. I mentioned it's going to happen tomorrow. That's also going to be on Showtime. I want to talk about a couple of bouts on HBO that's going to be happening Saturday as well, alongside the Showtime card. Timothy Bradley, coming off of his loss to Manny Pacquiao, he's going to be fighting Diego Chavez, 12-round welterweight bout. On the undercard is going to be a fight for the vacant WBO title between Matt Korobov and Andy Lee. Talk about Bradley Chavez. Bradley, who I felt he had that. We talked about this before the show, Sean. His loss to Pacquiao last time out, as far as I'm concerned, this past April, I believe it was. He had that bout. I don't care what anybody said. That bout with that loss to Pacquiao, that was more about what he did not do during the second half of the bout than anything great that Pacquiao did. First 6 rounds, he had him. He was going to the body. He was landing hard shots up top. Hurt him with a right hand and lifted Pacquiao off of his feet. Second half of that bout, he lost his way. He got fatigued and let everything go. And I don't know what he was doing. In interviews subsequently this week, he kind of admitted that he fought the wrong strategy. He made a mistake of trying to go for the knockout. He didn't have any win over the second half of the bout. Talk about that performance and what kind of adjustments he will make physically and in terms of strategy and mindset going into this bout with Chavez.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I thought the second fight, he looked far better than the first fight. I mean, I don't understand why people thought Manny won the second fight but lost the first fight. For me, it was clearly a Manny first fight, easily. And the second fight, Bradley was the one that was sort of dominating until he took his foot off the pedal and sort of lost the fight at the end. And even then, I had it a draw. So, I mean, it was a tough, close fight. So I would see no problem with a number 3. But besides that, I mean, I think Bradley's made some changes. I mean, he stopped being a vegan for this fight, started to eat meat. So we'll see how that plays out, see if he has more energy and more strength. He's been talking about this time, again, how he feels his punching power is coming around now that he's getting older and more mature. I don't know if that's a good omen going into the fight, if it means he's going to slug more than box, which makes me feel this fight is going to be the best fight of the weekend for sure. Because, I mean, I think Bradley just can't stop himself from mixing it up, which is going to make it a little more competitive.
Very Mildred Taylor-like.
Yeah. And, I mean, instead of making it an easy fight for himself, outboxing a guy who's, he's okay, but, I mean, he's not great. But he does have some pop. He's going to sort of probably slug it out with him and make Chavez pop a little more of an issue, which is good. I mean, I don't mind an exciting fight. I think this one is going to be the fight of the weekend.
I'll go see you on this one, Attic. I think ultimately Bradley will prove to be too much for Chavez, but just like I feel that the Erislandy Lara bout with Ishe Smith tomorrow night is largely depending on Lara in terms of what he wants to do. I think in this fight with Chavez, I think largely it's on Bradley. Will he be kind of foolish and stand there and fight too much, trying to knock this guy out, or will he kind of set, box, use angles, use his head, his smarts, use his head in terms of his intelligence instead of his other head, let's just say that, and try to fight balls to the wall?
Well, he should box smart, but he doesn't usually, does he? He likes to get into a bit of a war, which is always a bad thing for him. I mean, I like Bradley, but for me, he's lost his last 4 fights. I had him getting beat twice by Pacquiao, and I thought Marquez just nicked it against him as well. I know you guys might dispute that, but that's my take on it.
Go ahead, proceed.
Provodnikov as well. I thought Provodnikov just nicked it, so I don't know. He's he's obviously got good skill, and if he boxes, he can beat anybody. But he likes to get into a bit of a war, and when he does, he loses out. So Chavez could cause him more problems actually if he chooses to fight that way. I don't think he can help himself sometimes, can he? He likes to sort of prove that he can fight as well as box, and that will ultimately be his downfall at some point. But yeah, it's got to be a good fight.
Marquez lost that fight.
He did. He did.
I was only actually trying to wind Michael up with that one.
No. Bradley, that was one of the best performances of his career. The way he outboxed. That's when I say talk about boxing smart, using the head on top of his neck. That's what I mean by using his head, not using the other head between his legs like he did against Provodnikov.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why there was never a rematch of that Provodnikov fight, because I thought Provodnikov just nicked it.
Bradley don't want to go through that again if he don't have to.
Well,
no, of course he doesn't.
You don't want to have to go through that hell again.
He'd rather move forward.
But this is one where they should, they could make a lot of money out of that fight. It's a big fight. People would want to see it again.
And both top-ranked guys.
Yeah.
So easy to make.
Politics.
Maybe that can be on the undercard of Floyd and Manny.
Well, yeah. Well, that's it. I suppose going back to what we were talking about before with those fights possibly competing on the same night, it might make the undercards a bit better than usual as well, because they'll try and draw in, some decent cards for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, let's talk about the fight for the vacant WBO middleweight title. Last episode, we talked about Billy Joe Saunders' win over Chris Eubank Jr. That win set up a fight between the Saunders and the winner of this bout for this vacant WBO middleweight title between Karabov and Andy Lee. It's going to be happening on the undercard of Bradley Chavez. Karabov is a solid guy, fellas. Southpaw who can move around and box. Solid technique. Do I see anything great about him? Do I see any one outstanding qualities? No. But again, he's just that all-around guy that does everything well against Andy Lee. He's going to be motivated, fighting for a world title that he probably doesn't deserve. Let's be honest about it. But in interviews, he said he's fighting this fight for Emmanuel Stewart, the late Emmanuel Stewart, who was like a father figure to him. So again, he's going to be motivated, and I think he's going to put on a good performance. The question is, will Andy Lee hold up for 12 rounds through? And just like there's issues with Amir Khan about his chin, there are big time concerns about Andy Lee concerning his chin, because when he gets clipped, let's just say he can be easily hurt. And I don't think his physical strength is that great either at 160 pounds.
No. It's one of these bullshit fights, isn't it?
Let folks know how you really feel at it.
I think about it, and I think, would Andy Lee be a world champion at middleweight in any other era? And it's like, no, he's not good. He's not good enough. And if he wins it by some sort of punch from the gods on Saturday night, then fair play to him. But I don't really rate him at all. Korobov, I've only seen once or twice, and he looks quite solid. So I think he should get the win, and I kind of quite hope he does get the win. So yeah, Billy Joe Saunders is better than both of them, I think.
Me too.
Yeah, Andy Lee, he's an earnest guy. He's an honest guy. You love his story, but I just don't see him winning this fight against Karabov. Sean.
Hey, it would be great if he did get the punch of the gods and beat Korobov with the KO. I mean, that is the way he's going to win it.
It would be a hell of a story, I tell you that.
Because you imagine in the UK, Saunders against Lee for the middleweight championship of the world. I mean, it's a
definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't see that happening.
It's I mean, Lee's a quality guy. He's a really nice fella and stuff, and I kind of like him to win it, and I'll kind of be cheering him on to win it, to be honest. But I just couldn't care less, to be honest.
He's too fragile.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's just waiting to be knocked out by somebody, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on the show, we're going to close the show down on that note. I go to you on this one, Sean. For those who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
I'm all over YouTube, so you can see me there. And if you want to troll, go ahead. I'm happy for discussion. Because we're just here to talk boxing, aren't we?
Boxing Addict, for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, I agree with those sentiments. I'm on YouTube, and you know, I like to have a chat on there, really, especially with Khan fans.
And y'all want to know me, y'all know where it is. Brother JR on Twitter. If you want to know anything about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, that's POUND, the number 4 POUND Boxing Report. Just check out the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com, the podcast page, p4pboxingreport.podomatic.com, the blog page and the podcast page. And please check out the blog page. Both have links to where to find us all over social media, on Facebook, on Google Plus. We got 2 Google Plus pages. There's this page where we do the regular show, another page where we do the news, and the notes where I do blog stuff and update everything and just videos and whatnot. We got a Tumblr page, the Twitter account, of course. We got a YouTube page where we do a live YouTube show, Pinterest board, RSS feed, the link where to find us on Stitcher Radio, and also a link where you can donate your account and whatnot. So if you want to do that, just check out the blog page and the podcast page for all things podcast page for all things Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Coming up next week, going to be a really big show, our year-end show, where we do a recap of not only all the boxing that's going down this past weekend, we will also do a preview of some bouts coming up to close out the year. Adonis Stevenson, he's going to be fighting to close out the year. 2 huge cards in Japan. Omar Narvaez is going to be fighting in the Naoya Inoue. Pretty significant bout. Inoue moving up all the way from 108 to 115 pounds. He's going to be fighting on December 30th in Tokyo. Jorge Alvarez, he's going to be fighting for the vacant WBC lightweight belt. He's going to be fighting on that same card as well. And on the 31st, the last day of the year, Guillermo Rigondeaux. He's fighting in Japan, y'all. He's fighting in Japan, as he's going to be defending his bout over there in Japan. Takashi Uchiyama, who I feel is the best 130-pound fighter in the world, he's finally making his return to the ring. He's going to be fighting. Rigondeaux is going to be fighting on the 31st in Tokyo, while Uchiyama is going to be fighting on the 31st Rigondeaux, going to be fighting in Osaka, while Uchiyama is going to be fighting in Tokyo. So we will talk about all those bouts through our year-end show, as well as do our analysis of the fights of the year, the fighter of the year, promoter of the year, hand out our little special awards, as well as what fights would we like to see go down in 2015, other than Pacquiao and Mayweather, which is the obvious number 1 choice. So we will have that all next week to close out our year. That will be the last show of 2014. I want to thank Sean Newton for joining us all the way from Taiwan, live from Taiwan. The one and only Boxing Addict joining us live from the UK. For my guests, Sean and Boxing Addict, I'm your host, Michael. This has been another episode of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. You guys have a good evening. Good night.